And we're back again. What's up, you guys? Stoopzz back again with another video. Sorry I've been away for a couple days or so. I feel like I always make excuses and say that, but I came down with this weird flu virus that goes around this time of the year in California. The weather gets dry and it gets cold. You don't really care, but I got sick and I lost my voice, so I wasn't able to record really any videos for you, but I am going to try and cover a lot of news this week or maybe the next week following BlizzCon. I am going to BlizzCon, so I won't be here for a few days, but there are a lot of exciting class changes, I would say, coming to World of Warcraft in 8.1, and I want to cover those specifically for PvP. You know, we're one of the only PvP channels on YouTube for World of Warcraft. There's a few other great people out there like Zaryu, but as far as, you know, covering news, we're almost the only one. So I want to talk about specifically today Paladins, Holy Paladins specifically, as they're getting some very powerful changes that I think will be great for the class, and it will shift up the meta, I think, along with a few other classes. I will cover some other classes in the future, and if there's a class that you want me to cover, because Elemental Shamans are getting changed, Warlocks are getting changed, and Holy DKs, which we will speak about today, are getting changed, and I want to cover them all. So if there's one that you want me to cover, you can let me know in the comment section below, and I'll try to get to that video as soon as I can. But on to today's video and Holy Paladins. Now, recently I leveled up a Paladin to level 120 to do a new type of PvP challenge. I did my 102k challenge. There were some complications in that, and I will update you guys on that challenge in a future video, but I'm also trying to do some new things with the Holy Paladin, and I saw these changes for the Holy Paladin 8.1, and they are very strong, just direct buffs overall, and I want to get to those. I also logged on the 8.1 PTR to make sure that these challenges, you know, or these changes, I should say, were in fact in place and not just a typo, or just like, you know, sometimes we're confused on what these changes actually mean and if they are what they say they are, but I did confirm that the changes were indeed in place. Also, the graphics on 8.1, for some reason, I think it's the DirectX 12 format, the graphics just looked way better on like 7 settings, 10 settings. It looked nice, so that's also a plus. But on to the changes themselves. So we have the Holy Paladin here on MMO Champion. I will link these notes in the description box below, but specifically today we're covering the Holy Paladin. Now, we have a change to the talent structure of Holy Paladins, specifically your PvP talent. So this is a PvP change, that's why we're covering it. So we have Cleanse the Weak. Now, if you're unfamiliar with what Cleanse the Weak does or is currently doing inside of Battle for Azeroth, whenever you dispel an ally within your aura, so if you have a 10-yard radius base aura, and then you can get spec into Divine Vision, which will increase the aura by 30 yards. Whenever you dispel an ally within your 10-yard or baseline 10-yard aura, all allies will be dispelled of the same effect. So for example, if everyone has Vampiric Touch on them and you dispel one person with Vampiric Touch, it will cleanse all allies with Vampiric Touch, which was very strong in Legion, and it's still very strong in Battle for Azeroth, but because in Battle for Azeroth you can only select 3 PvP talents, whereas before you could select 6, you actually don't spec into this as much as you would like to. Now, there's also another very strong PvP talent in Battle for Azeroth that a lot of people are taking, which is why Holy Paladins are strong currently in the Battle for Azeroth Season 1 meta, and it's called Pure of Heart. Now, every time you heal an ally within your aura, you will cleanse the target of all poison and disease effects. Now, this is the same as we've had in Legion. It was very strong, and it's a good out to assassination rogues and sometimes DKs, but mainly it's for assassination rogues because of all the poisons that they have, and it makes it hard for them to keep up their pressure and get their poisons going, which is responsible for a good portion of their damage. Well, what they've done here is they've combined Cleanse the Weak and Pure of Heart in one talent. So whereas before you'd have to spec into just Pure of Heart or Cleanse the Weak, mainly you'd spec into Pure of Heart, just baseline when you're fighting against rogues, well, now you get both of these talents in one talent. So you now you don't have to take up 2 spots, you just take up 1 spot, and this will help you fight against all of the assassination rogues, but at the same time, it helps you fight against Shadow Priests as well, and any other classes that does have, you know, dot effects that you want to dispel. But you're getting a 2-for-1 combo here, and the reason why I believe, number 1, this is just a 2-for-1, but number 2, the reason why I think this talent change is so strong is we are seeing a lot of changes to Shadow Priests. Now, a lot of people, which I'll cover in a separate video, are talking about how strong Shadow Priests are going to be based on the changes that we're seeing. They're getting a big damage increase. They're almost able to keep the same form of, you know, tankiness, I should say, as they have now, because they're getting things like Focused Will. They're also getting a buff on Dispersion. They're also getting an increased damage output on Void Form, and they have Greater Fade now, which is also going to make it much more difficult. If you remember Holy Priest with Greater Fade in Legion, you'll remember how difficult it was to take down a Holy Priest because of Greater Fade. So they're going to be much more tanky with a higher damage output, and a lot of people are thinking that this is going to be way too overpowered. It's just already Shadow Priests are performing pretty well. And then now with these changes, they're going to be very strong, and I think it's a good change for a lot of Shadow Priest players that do want to experiment with Void Form. So happy for Shadow Priest players. think it's a cool change to the game. But with that being said, rogues are looking like they're going to stay somewhat the same here, and Shadow Priests are just getting a buff, so you can expect to see more Shadow Priests and more Assassination Rogues being paired together, and obviously that's going to help you having your Cleanse the Weak talent now cleansing both poisons, diseases, and whenever you dispel, also, clearing out all those vampiric touches and Shadow Word pains. Now, also, we saw a change to Divine Favor, and all this is a reduction in the cooldown of Divine Favor, where it was 45 seconds, and now it's 25 seconds. I don't think this change is worthy of picking. I can't imagine a scenario where you'd opt to pick this over some of the other talent options, but it is a nice change. But another really insane change here that's going to help you with these Shadow Priest teams is Divine Vision. Now, Divine Vision, all it did in Legion, and what it does now, is it expands your aura, which we talked about earlier being 10 yards, by an additional 30 yards. So now it's a 40-yard aura, and that's what we've had all of Legion and BFA, but they're adding an additional effect, which we've had in previous expansions. Allies who are affected by your aura also gain a Shadow Resistance aura, which reduces all shadow damage they take by 15%. Now, this is going to be very, very, very strong, obviously. Against Shadow Priests in general, it's going to reduce their dot damage and their area of effect spells by 15%. So you're getting a 2-for-1. You're able now to cleanse dots and poisons at a 40-yard radius, and then you're also able to just reduce the amount of damage they're taking by 15% when fighting against any class that does shadow damage, which we're seeing, again, some changes to Warlocks, and we're seeing some changes to Unholy Death Knights, and Unholy Death Knights are looking to be very strong going into 8.1 with a lot of the changes that we're seeing, and rightfully so. Unholy Death Knights haven't been seeing a lot of love. Warlocks have not been seeing a lot of love, so a lot of the classes that weren't performing so well, in my mind, are just going to perform very well in 8.1. Windwalker Monks look to be very good, and Holy Death Knights look to be very good. Elemental Shamans are getting a lot of nice changes. All of the classes that weren't performing very well are getting buffs, and there's actually not a lot of nerfs here across the board, except a few things here to Demon Hunters and their Mana Rift, which most people have agreed is just a little bit too much, I would say. But overall, these changes to a lot of the classes, they're all positive. But Paladin, I want to talk about today, is I see the meta shifting in a format where we're going to see more Warlocks, more DKs, more Shadow Priests, same amount of Rogues, I assume, but Paladins have an answer to a lot of those classes just based on their toolkit, and they're already performing very well inside of Battle for Azeroth. So I recommend Holy Paladins going into 8.1. I assume they're going to be one of the strongest healers going into 8.1, as they're still one of the stronger healers in the current format of Battle for Azeroth. And I definitely recommend the class, as I think it's a good beginner class, but it also is a class with a very high skill cap that has rewarding gameplay, interactive gameplay, and I think it is a good overall healer going into 8.1. But that will do it for today's video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. When that video will be, I don't really know. With BlizzCon coming up in my schedule, who knows? But the only way to know is to make sure you're subscribed and make sure you have that bell notification button turned on for my future videos. And if you guys love this channel and you like me covering PvP news, let me know in the comment section below. And if you want to take it a step further, you can support me on Patreon to keep this channel going, as once again, we are one of only the few PvP channels out there for World of Warcraft. And at the same time, for supporting me on Patreon, you can also earn yourself some coaching. Try not to miss me on my Twitch live stream where I answer all your guys' questions in depth. Once again, do not forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.